The women that I've seen make this mistake time and time and time again and wonder why men aren't interested in a second date with them, men are hesitant to commit to them, men don't want to open up to them, or they're just pushing good men away. Are women that think and try to date like men. They are busy, dedicated professionals that are really career driven, high achieving women that have reached a certain status of success and achievement in their career. Now, you don't have to be some kind of lawyer or CEO or founder or director to make this mistake as a woman. All you need to do is approach dating from a fear based mindset. And that fear based mindset is going to lead you to make this mistake. And that mistake is approaching dates with men as if they're a board meeting, as if they're some kind of job interview. All dates are interviews, but a bad date feels like an interview. It doesn't matter if we're on a date and we're both aware that we're qualifying each other. Do I like you? Do I want a second date with you? Do I see a future with you? These are all questions we know we're asking internally and trying to figure out through this date. Everyone knows that. There's no hiding that. But if the date feels like I'm being interviewed, it's a terrible date. And for most women that have been hurt, that have been love bombed, that met a guy that kind of faked his personality for about 3 months, and then they were completely surprised by who he really was when the 3 months ended or the situationship fell apart. They approach dating from a fear-based mindset. And that fear leads them to approach dating like, let me get this over with. Are you my person or not? I don't think women understand how this translates to men when they're interested in you and when they're trying to pursue you. And they're not registering that this is scaring men away. And a lot of the feminine dating coaches will tell you, well, if your standards lead him to run away, then that's good. He's not the guy for you. But as a man, I'm going to be honest with you. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, with wanting to get to know someone, with making sure you're not wasting your time. What is wrong is the approach you're using to extract this information. And I'm going to share with you the worst date I've ever been on. So I was talking to a friend of mine and she asked me, what's the worst date you have ever been on? And I had to think about it because as a man, I'm usually the one planning and curating the date. So I'm like, it's kind of hard for me to have a bad date because if I have a bad date, then it kind of falls on me. I'm the guy that prepared everything and set the scene and chose the activity. So it's kind of on me. But then I thought back to this date that I had in New York last year. And that date was the worst date I've ever had. There was nothing wrong with the person I was on a date with. I was actually really interested in them. And we met in a very interesting way that made me more excited to go on the date with her. But what made this date so bad was that it felt like an interview. We reached a point in the date where we went from the activity into a dinner dining setting. And when we were in this setting, I was bombarded with questions. I didn't even get a chance to really share who I was. It felt like I was writing a cover letter for a job that I was attempting to apply for. First, it started with things like, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And then I'm like, well, I kind of expect this question on a date. And I share. And then afterwards, it's immediately followed up with things like, well, how do you cope with anger? How do you process anger? What do you do when you feel lonely? I'm like, am I filling out a intake form right now? Is this person really asking me this on a date? And it just continued throughout the whole night. And the reason this was a bad date for me was because two things. One, there was no room that this woman left for banter, for just organic conversations where she gets to know who I am without trying to extract the information so obviously. And the second thing is this didn't really feel like a feminine approach. And as a man, that likes to lead from my masculine, it felt very repelling to be interacting with a woman that was operating from a very masculine energy. Like, what is it? Let's get it done. Let's figure out if this is going to work out, and then we'll schedule next day. That's what she was indirectly telling me. And I say it's a very masculine approach because she was very goal oriented. She was fixated on the goal. What is happening here? Is this guy my person or is he not? And this is the problem, is that for me as a man, if I want to be with a woman that I can court, that I can feel masculine around, that I can create safety for her to feel feminine around me, I need her to lead from her heart. I need her to lead from her feminine gifts and instincts as a woman. And to give her the benefit of the doubt, she was queer, and she told me she had not dated a man in years. So I'm pretty sure she's used to dating women, and this is probably the first time she's been on a date with a man in a long time. So I give her some grace. For me, it was just such a big turnoff that I was not interested in pursuing a second date or getting to know her anymore. Now, this is where the problem is that women that approach dating this way don't see an issue with it, but wonder why they're getting the same results date after date. The guy just wants to sleep with you. He doesn't want to get to know you even deeper. Or you feel like, why am I always the one in my masculine? Why am I the one always planning, executing dates? When am I ever going to be courted? You have to understand that men need to feel your vulnerability. They need to feel your softness. They need to feel that you're gentle and tender and receptive so that they can step up into those traits and qualities that you want to be receiving. You want to be on the receiving end of. And they cannot do that. They cannot do that if they feel that you as a woman are occupying the masculine energy that is reserved for them. So men are inspired by your vulnerability. Men are inspired by your receptivity to step up, to take action, to take charge, to plan, to curate, to say, baby, don't worry about that. I got this. You don't have to worry about, am I with you, am I not? Do I want to be with you or do I not? I'm stepping up. I'm affirming those things to you. I'm providing that reassurance because your energy as a woman feels like an invitation. It doesn't feel like a demand. It doesn't feel like an ultimatum. It feels like an invitation. And that's the feminine energy that a man is seeking, especially on those first dates. Because if he doesn't feel that, what's going to happen in his mind? He's going to start thinking to himself, I'm with one of those, I don't need a man kind of woman. And that for a man is very repelling. Because if you genuinely feel like you don't need a man, what's going to happen is that is an energy that you're giving off. And men are going to think to themselves, well, especially if they're men that value themselves, that respect themselves, you're going to be like, well, I'm not going to waste my time trying to step up and do A, B, and C in this connection because she doesn't need me. She can do all those things by herself. She can handle all of that by herself. And most men are going to notice that, and the bad ones are going to spot it, and then they're going to use that energy against you. They're going to use that against you so that they can take a passive position, so that they can be the passenger princess while you plan and you curate, you do all of these things while they take a step back and they get to be in their feminine while they watch you overfunction and overwork. So it doesn't work in your favor. You're either pushing good men away that would love to step up, that would love to take charge, that would love to have you in a space where you feel relaxed and comfortable in the relationship. Or you're going to attract the other men that see that and exploit it to their own benefit, where they can take the passenger seat and not have to do anything because you got it. You're a one-woman show. You want to be superwoman, so be superwoman. Don't look for me to step up and do anything. Go ahead. Overfunction, burn yourself out. I don't give a damn. This is what's going to happen. So if you want to break out of that, you have to learn how to communicate and lead with your feminine gifts and instincts as a woman. And it's very hard for women that work in these kind of environments. Whether you're a lawyer, you're a director, you're leading and managing teams, you have to break out of the pattern of adopting the communication style that's required. Most women struggle to break this pattern. They take the style of communication from work and then bring it into their love life and wonder why men are repelled. This works in your professional life, but it will always harm your love life because men don't need you to be the boss lady. Men don't need you to be trying to communicate to them as if you're their CEO or you're their manager or you're their director. If you're a woman that wants to feel more feminine in your love life because your work life does not allow you to feel feminine, you need to break the habit of taking that communication style and bringing it into your love life. You have to pattern disrupt, or men are going to constantly be repelled by the way you're communicating. So develop a pattern disrupting ritual. How do you take off the lawyer hat? How do you take off the CEO hat, the manager hat, and enter into just you as a woman, as a lover, as a mother, or as a wife? How do you switch out of that frame and into one that feels more relaxing? How do you take off that armor that you had to put on to operate in your work environment where you call the shots, you lead the team, you make all the decisions? How do you take off that armor? Do you even have a ritual that allows your body to recalibrate? Develop one. The second thing is approach dating without the outcome in mind. This is what leads you to enter into dating situations with, what are we getting out of this? What do you want? Okay, I said yes to you on this date. Now let's get this over with. You have to approach dating without the outcome in mind. Without the outcome in mind, you show up a lot more available for disappointment. Because the reason you're doing this is because you fear being disappointed. Again, you're operating from fear. If you're approaching every date like, this could be my person, this needs to work, this has to work, I'm so tired, I dated this kind of man and I dated these kind of men and I'm sick of it. You have to be okay with being disappointed. You have to be okay with being rejected. You have to be okay with making a mistake with the person you choose to spend this time with. Be okay with that. Approach dating without this big expectation in mind. If you didn't put pressure on your dates to be successful, to lead to something long-term or marriage, whatever your ideal is, how would you approach dating differently if you didn't put that kind of pressure on yourself, on your date, or even your love life? You would probably be a lot more patient, a lot more graceful for yourself and the person you are engaging with. And the third thing to make sure you're not making this dating mistake anymore is to develop a two-share, one-question approach. So if you're looking to extract certain information from the guy you're on a date with, like, is he ambitious? Is he family-oriented? Does he want kids? Does he have a good relationship with himself, his family, whatever the information that's most important to you, you need to find this out. But there's an organic way to find this out where you're not drilling the person as if they're completing an intake form. You can use a two-share, one-question approach. So the two-share, one-question approach means that you share things about yourself. This is how you organically extract information. Talk about yourself. Be vulnerable. Remember, lead with the vulnerability. That's what's inspiring. So share things about yourself. If he asks, how was your day? Share how your day was. Let him know why, you going to yoga class this morning is such a meaningful thing in your life right now. Maybe throughout your life, you've never taken the time to love yourself enough to slow down. Share that with him. And then use that as a entry point to share something much deeper. I'm actually taking this a bit further. I want to start running my own yoga studio and stepping out of this work environment that I've been in for so long because it's burnt me out. It doesn't inspire me anymore. What you're doing is you're creating an invitation. And that invitation is for him to grab something from that he can resonate with and he can relate to. So if you share that you've been burnt out in your work life, that guy can instantly grab that and say, I can relate. I've been working at this job for such a long time. And what I find most meaningful right now in my life is volunteering at this sanctuary upstate. Instantly, you have a natural, organic conversation happening. You didn't have to pull a question of like, what do you do in your spare time? What do you do on the weekends? You didn't have to do that. All you did was share vulnerably about your journey and your experience. And then from that share, these are two shares, then ask a question. And that question can be, well, what inspired you to do that? Or what is it that you find challenging about this? Whatever question you come up with, it's a perfect balance because the two shares leave room for banter, leave room for him to riff off what you're saying, and to even ask you more questions about what you're going through. And a man that's genuinely interested in you and is feeling a connection is going to take things that you share to also reveal more about himself. This is a very vulnerable approach that doesn't have to keep you in this mindset of thinking and operating like a man or like you are in a board meeting. So those are the three things that you need to start doing on your dates so you don't make this mistake anymore. So you don't push good men away or attract men that want you to be in your masculine so that they can be passive and take the passenger seat. If there's any questions you have around this or this relates to your experience, feel free to let me know in the comments. Or if there's any videos that you want to see me create on a similar topic, share with me down in the comments as well.